breaking news right now. Donald Trump's team is preparing yet another travel ban 2.0, essentially targeting 43 countries for restrictions for entry into the United States. We learned this from the New York Times overnight. The State Department has officially drawn up a list of 43 countries in which the Trump administration may restrict or completely end travel into the United States from. This is the list of countries. In red, all travel will be banned. In orange, visas will be sharply restricted. And in yellow, the country will have 60 days to address concerns. And interestingly, yellow includes countries like St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis. These are island nations where Americans vacation all the time. And most of these other countries are either from Southeast Asia or from Africa. There are technically no surprises really in the red area up here. Many of these countries are facing civil war, are led by a dictator, or facing internal conflicts of some kind. What do you think about this list? It's not official. It could definitely change, and the New York Times reports that it's likely to change at least a little bit. Remember during the first administration? Well, this is Travel Ban 2.0. I'll do a full breakdown.
All right. Welcome to Exposing Sierra Leone, your weekly dive into the issues, news, and people shaping Sierra Leone and the diaspora at large. Now, let me just make sure I have volume. Cool. Okay, so if you guys can hear me, give me a thumbs up and let me know where you're watching from. So again, each week, join us as we engage with professionals, journalists, and various guests, sometimes just myself and or Admire, to explore the ways that we can propel our country forward. From in-depth discussions to enlightening interviews, we're here to uncover the stories that matter most. Tune in and be part of the conversation as we work together to make a positive impact on Sierra Leone's future. If you haven't seen it already, travel bans. We are on travel bans discussions today. My WhatsApp was blowing up yesterday. Everybody was like, what's going on with this travel ban? You have to talk about it. You have to post about it. So I decided, I did a post yesterday, kind of spelling it out a little bit and on Instagram. And then I thought today I could go through it a little bit more. So this is about the Trump travel ban and African countries that are impacted, specifically in this case, Sierra Leone. And we'll talk about other things that the Trump administration is impacting as it pertains to Sierra Leone. So good. Mokanji Film Production says you can, it says greetings, you can hear me. Cool. Jada Faith said you can hear me. I saw that Arnacia said you can hear me. Shout out to Arnacia back in the States. Who else said that they can hear me? Florida. Okay, Peak Sport said you can hear me from Florida. Sapphire Dragon 17 is in New York. What's up? 01 Laporte 04 is on Ohio. You can hear me. Okay. We got New York, CK 8027. Pro Woman is waving hey from springtime snowy Chicago. What's up? Hope says they are watching from Ghana by way of the United States. And Angela Amadou said Sierra Leone. They are so sweet and kind. This is odd indeed. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about it. So I just want to give a chance for everybody to get on and let us know what you guys think about this travel ban. It's unexpected, and it's one that I think it's kind of confusing because the last travel ban, if you guys might remember, was Muslim majority countries. The Supreme Court in 2017 struck it down. And then there was another revised version of a travel ban. Now, this right now technically is a proposal, an internal proposal that has gone out. But we're going to talk about how African countries are affected, and in this case, Sierra Leone, because it's interesting where Sierra Leone sits in this grouping. And so we're going to get into it. We're going to get into Sierra Leone's response in a second. But here's the first thing I want to do. A little over 2 months ago, you know, I'm in a lot of WhatsApp groups, African WhatsApp groups. I'm in one from Ghana. I have friend groups in Sierra Leone, and I have other family groups that I'm in. And I got some messages about a travel ban for Nigeria. This other travel ban that we're talking about recently, people have been asking, where's Nigeria on the list? And we'll talk about the full list in a moment. But this was interesting. This particular story, I think, caught my attention because there was a couple things about it that seemed interesting. You know, we're going to play it, and then I'll give you my thoughts on the other side. Let me know, one, if you guys have even seen this video, because this was one that I was not aware of. I want to get your thoughts on this one. This is about Nigeria, the Nigerian travel ban that that was going around on the internet and on WhatsApp a couple of weeks back.
Announcing a temporary policy shift, one that aims to encourage Nigerians, especially those in critical professions, to stay.
Just remember how the word Nigerians was just pronounced. Let's keep going.
Invest and work in their homeland. As part of this policy, the U.S. will limit certain visa approvals for Nigerian professionals, including doctors, nurses, engineers, and others in essential fields. This is not a move taken lightly, nor is it meant to deter genuine cultural exchange or partnerships between our nations. Instead, this is a call to action for Nigerians to dedicate their skills to the advancement of Nigeria itself. I believe that the future of a strong, independent, and prosperous Nigeria relies on its citizens and its workforce being invested and building that future from within. For Nigeria to become the world leader it has the potential to be, it needs its doctors in its hospitals, its engineers on its infrastructure projects, its teachers in its classrooms, and its entrepreneurs in its economy. We want to see Nigeria flourish as a pillar of stability and progress in Africa, and we will do our part to support initiatives that foster this development. This decision was made with the utmost respect for the Nigerian people and with a genuine desire to see Nigeria succeed on its own terms. We're confident that this policy will serve as a stepping stone toward that brighter future. To all Nigerians, we admire you, we value you, and we look forward to building a stronger partnership with a stronger Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay. So P-Ro Dusha said that's AI, and P-Ro Dusha is absolutely right. So number one, if you know Trump's cadence and how he talks, it's never, first of all, he never reads on script, and there's always conjecture. He throws in notes. We love our Nigerians. Like if he's going to say a country name or if he's going to say something like this, he'll jump off script for a moment. There's never a steady flow, no inflection in voice, monotone Trump. Even when he's sick, even when it looks like there's something off with him, he jumps up and down with his volume, with his inflection, with his tone, and then he jumps off topic, right? So if he was to ever do this, you know, we think Nigerians should stay in Nigeria, you know, the whole thing, first of all, there'd be video of it, number one. And number two, again, he throws in conjecture. We love our Nigerians. Look at my Nigerian. You know, that's how he would do it. It would never be in the way that that video was played. So that was passed around, and it brought me to a broader point, and I wanted to play that because of this particular story that came out the other day and how important it is to do some additional fact checking on something to see what reputable sources are independently verifying certain things. And even if they say they haven't been able to independently verify, they have talked to people who are familiar with the topic and will speak to it, right? So you guys can choose whatever those publications are. You know, in the United States, you have a right and you have a left. You have on the right-hand side, you have Wall Street Journal. On the left-hand side, you have New York Times, right? And then sometimes you have like the Post in New York. And so they're on the right. So you can have people on the right and on the left, and you check you want to check for whoever it is you listen to on the left or the right side of the political aisle, and they'll mention if they've been able to independently verify. These things they're required to do so. And so this was disappointing to me because it came to me from so many different people, and it was obviously not true. So let me just read a little bit from some of the notes that I took on this. The claim that Trump imposed travel ban on Nigerian doctors and other professionals is false. Several fact checkers have debunked this misinformation. Now, I did hear of this from some Nigerians, and they agreed with the sentiment. You know, there's this joke that I saw maybe about a year ago that said, where are all of Nigerians' best doctors? Or it's like, what region are all Nigerians' best doctors, right? And so I was thinking, oh, maybe Lagos or maybe Abuja. And the answer was, what was it? In New York and in what it was? It's like the United States and in the UK, right? And there is a problem with, and it wouldn't be their best doctors, but many of the great ones do leave, and a lot of people don't come back, right? And that's an issue we have in Sierra Leone. All over the continent of Africa, this is an issue. So anyway, just to get back to the story. So it's a viral TikTok video claiming Trump announces visa restrictions for Nigerian professionals were found to be altered and fake. The audio of the video was likely created using AI technology to mimic Trump's voice. That's obvious. There is no evidence of any official announcement or policy from Trump administration specifically targeting Nigerian professionals or doctors with visa restrictions this time around. So while Trump is considering, because there was one last go round, while Trump is considering new travel restrictions for certain countries, Nigeria is not included in that tentative list of affected nations. The proposed restrictions mainly target countries in Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean, but Nigeria is noticeably absent. The U.S. mission to Nigeria has announced changes to the visa application process for Nigerians seeking immigrant visas that was effective the 1st of January of this year, 2025. But they're claiming that this is unrelated to any ban on professionals. This process requires 2 visits to the U.S. consulate in Lagos during the application process, which is probably why they were removed from this list. So it's important to be cautious of such claims circulating on social media platforms, as they often spread misinformation. Always verify information from official government sources or reputable news outlets before accepting such claims is true. So I wanted to start with that off the rip, because over the last couple of months, there's been a lot of misinformation about visas and visa restrictions, and there will be some, there will be many, but that one was absolutely false. And so I just wanted to make sure I made you guys aware of that to begin with, because I do think it's important to know what's real and what's not. And you look, I first, as soon as I heard it, I knew it was AI, but there will be a time very soon where you won't be able to tell what's AI and what's not. And so you're going to need to check reputable government websites, because the government websites will say what they'll agree to and what they won't. Right. So I think that's really, really important to pay attention to that. Now, Nigeria was notably left off the list. And again, I do think it's because of the restrictions they put in January, which basically changed the way Nigeria is allowing, the U.S. consulate in Nigeria is allowing people to apply for visas. And I think by doing so, that has probably changed Nigeria's status to a country that the United States is allowing visas from, because they became more restrictive as part of their process. And so let me just do a quick check here on questions, comments, thoughts, and concerns before we move into some of the additional information that I wanted to go into. So Hope says, I'm very disappointed. Jada Faith says, I plan on visiting family in Sierra Leone this September, and I'm afraid I won't be able to come back, even though I'm a citizen by adoption. As long as you're an American citizen, you'll be able to come back. You'll be fine. Well, just make sure you have your U.S. passport with you, of course. But this is not meant to impact American citizens. This is meant to impact people who are looking to apply for visas for the United States at the American embassy in these respective countries. Okay, so let me start by, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I do think we're at that time where we can get into it. Let me just see if there's any other questions, comments, concerns, or thoughts before I move into it. He didn't say Nigerians can make Africa great again. Yes, he didn't say that, which would have been something he probably would have thrown out there for sure. Any other thoughts and concerns before we move on? Let me see if there's anything from Instagram. So Sharif Ali Jack is from Sudan. Greetings from Sudan. You're on this list. Sudan is on this list. South Sudan and Sudan are both on the list in various places, but we'll get to that in a moment. And that video kind of called out that some of them countries that are dealing with civil war or have had some opposition to the United States and some of its policies are on this list. So I'm just trying to see if there's anybody else on IG that has anything to say. All right, cool. So let me share my screen. let's see. I'm trying to see what you guys will see. Okay, cool. There we go. So the Trump administration, as I said, is considering a new travel ban that could significantly impact several African countries. This controversial proposal categorizes African nations into 3 tiers with varying levels of restrictions. Now, if the countries in the yellow list fail to address what the United States has identified as quote unquote issues within a 60-day period, they risk being moved to either red or orange. To me, what it sounds like, the folks that are in red or orange are kind of stuck in red or orange. So let's kind of get into it. So here's the red list. The red list is Somalia, Sudan, and Libya. Now, Libya has been in a world of trouble since the basically the coup and the murder of Gaddafi. Somalia has had internal conflicts that the United States has been involved in financing different aspects of it. Sudan, similarly, right? These folks are in with North Korea, Afghanistan, Iran. These countries are all adversarial to the United States for different reasons and sometimes for good reason. What's interesting to me is that Cuba is in this list. I don't know why Cuba is continuously being punished when really, I mean, we're talking about a decision to side with Russia, you know, many, many years ago. Cuba has continued getting punished by the United States. I mean, I went to Cuba when the travel ban was lit. I mean, the ban was lifted. We could actually travel there in 2014. But then it's been, you know, under the Trump administration, he kind of follows through with the aggression against Cuba once again. And so we're going to get to the orange list in a second. But let's start with the yellow list, and then we'll get to the list where Sierra Leone is. So, hey, this thing has a mind of its own. All right, so you can see all the countries here. What you'll notice on the screen is that Burkina Faso, man, this keeps happening. Burkina Faso, Mali, Burkina Faso and Mali are in this group, and I'm interested to see why Niger is not in this group. That's interesting because I would have assumed that all of the Sahel states will be in this group, but maybe Niger has very strict, already has very strict policies around getting visas to go to the United States at the American Embassy in Niger. But I did see 2 of the countries that are in the Sahel Alliance, which I'm also seeing. I heard that other countries are reportedly planning. So both Republic of Congo and the Democratic Republic of Congo are both in here. Or this is also being called Congo Brazzaville as well. People were like, what did São Tomé and Príncipe do? You know, certain countries are in here, St. Kitts and Nevis, countries that really don't have adversarial relationships with the United States. And as that video described, many of these countries are countries that people go to vacation. The Gambia is one that Europeans love to go to, and Americans are starting to learn about it and starting to go there. Generally single, recently divorced, middle-aged, middle American women, we'll just leave it that way. They tend to go to the Gambia to find a second love. St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, these are all places that these people go. Antigua and Barbuda. I don't even know what Barbuda is, but I do know Antigua. Obviously, this is in the Caribbean, but I've never actually been to this part of the Caribbean. So Dominica is on here. So just a bunch of countries, and of course, all the African countries here. So let me just kind of read through. Sorry, this is the yellow list. Disregard this part up here that says this. So the yellow list basically says this. Let me give the specifics. So the yellow list says They have 60 days to address the following issues: failing to share information about incoming travelers with the United States. So anytime a United States, somebody who's planning to leave to go to the United States from any one of these countries, the United States needs to be notified in the way that they're asking. Inadequate security practices for issuing passports. So the United States has its own idea of how you can issue passports, and they want security practices, quote unquote, adequately done the way the United States would like. And then selling citizenship to people from banned countries, which could serve as a loophole around restrictions. Meaning, if you are one of these countries on the screen, you cannot sell to someone who's from Afghanistan citizenship to, let's say, Angola, so that that person from Angola can apply for a visa to go to the United States. So they're saying, apparently, based on the inference, is that they're actually doing that. They're inferring that these countries have been doing something of the like, or any one of those things. So all of those things the United States has determined has to be addressed before they allow people to travel on a visa, or before they get moved into one of these other places. So now let's go with the orange list. The orange list is interesting. Why is the orange list interesting? Well, because Sierra Leone is on the orange list. And by the way, on this list is Russia. Russia is on this list. Russia is considered by many parts of the United States an adversary, not a partner. We have an adversary relationship with them. Myanmar has had quite a bit of a troubling past over the last few years with, was it the I can't remember the name of the Muslim minority group in Myanmar, or the group in Myanmar where there was like a genocide that happened there. So I mean, I guess I could see maybe some of these groups who are having internal conflicts being in here, but Sierra Leone is interesting. And so by Sierra Leone being on this orange list, to be clear, it says travel would be restricted but not completely stopped. Immigrant and tourist visas would generally not be issued. So tourist visas are likely to go away. Immigrant visas are likely to go away. These are the visas that people are applying for when I go to the American embassy. And I talk to people that are in there. And I have friends three people actually that I know who were turned down last year. Citizens will be required to undergo mandatory in-person interviews to receive a visa, which they do anyway now. But entry of affluent business travelers might still be permitted because money talks in these United States. And so if you got money, you can pretty much come from anywhere in any country to the United States. The UK has a very similar process. So there's a statement that I wanted to read. Visas sharply restricted doesn't mean Sierra Leone travelers won't get a visa to the United States. It does mean it's sharply restricted, which typically refers to a situation where the ability to obtain or use a visa is significantly limited or curtailed. This can mean that a government has imposed strict regulations or criteria that must be met in order to be granted a visa, or it may indicate that certain categories of individuals are no longer eligible for visas altogether. So that is what does this mean means. It basically, what does this mean kind of went into the details of what I just read. So that is where Sierra Leone is on this proposed list. Again, it's a proposed list. It is still in draft form and may change before final approval. The proposal is part of a broader immigration enforcement initiative by the Trump administration. So that is where we are today. So some comments. Let me remove this from the screen. So Okimute says, why is America restricting Liberia? That's interesting. I don't know. They're just in that group, and it could be any one of those reasons that specifically they mentioned. Lanlande 24 says, that's crazy. It sure is. And Okimute says, what has Sierra Leone done? Not sure. Now, I want to go to the response of Sierra Leoneans to this, because it has caused quite a stir, quite a stir. As you can imagine, you know, it's already difficult for Americans to get citizenship in Sierra Leone. For Sierra Leoneans to get a visa to go to the United States. Sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. I'm trying to search for something at the same time as saying that. And it has really caused a lot of questions and comments from Sierra Leone, the Sierra Leonean public. But first, what I want to do is maybe I should just start with just going over what's to come with the conversations within Sierra Leone and the government. GRNS says, what makes you think Sierra Leone did anything? Well, yeah, that is a good point. They just happen to be on a list of what has been previously called shithole countries, right? You remember that? You guys remember that comment? So yeah, I mean, look, that's probably what this is about, right? So let me remove this and let me present my screen. All right. So this was posted by Sierra Loaded, great site. They said the U.S. proposed travel ban on Sierra Leone. So the foreign minister, Timothy Kaba, summons U.S. ambassador, Sierra Leone's foreign minister, Timothy Kaba. Sorry, hold on. Foreign Minister Timothy Kaba summons the U.S. ambassador to Sierra Leone. He has requested a meeting with the ambassador, Brian Hunt, following news of a proposed travel ban that the United States has has on Sierra Leone nationals. So for information reaching their desk indicates that the meeting will focus on the rationale for the visa restriction on Sierra Leone nationals by the U.S. government. So we'll find out a little bit more after this meeting. We don't know exactly when this meeting is happening, but this was posted a little over 12 hours ago, 10 hours ago. So it was posted like in the early morning times of Sierra Leone time. And so we'll see this week if what actually happens. Somebody's asking, Sunfree says, can you talk about the difficulties that were already there for someone trying to get a visa to come to the United States and what the process was? So yeah, I can speak to a little bit of that. So the process is on the websites, but what I do know is they would ask that you have a certain amount of money in your bank account. You want to have to be able to show that you'll have a sponsor that can cover your entire trip. You have to show that you have ties back to your country of origin, Sierra Leone in this case, and that because the idea is they don't want you to overstay your visa and never leave. So they want you to have specific ties. So like if you have a spouse that lives in the country of origin, if you have a business that's in the country of origin, I don't know, just there are things that have to tie you back to the country of origin. And they need to know that when you get here, you won't be a burden on society. That's the way they're kind of trying to frame it. So that's why they say that the person who is inviting you is basically responsible for you. So somebody has to write a letter on your behalf to invite you, and they have to show that they'll be financially responsible for you when you get to the States. I have heard anecdotally from 3 different people, all in 2024, who applied, that they were in a room with 55 to 65 or so people, and each time only about 3 to 5 people were granted visas. And in that process, many times they didn't even get asked questions specifically to all of the data that they put in their sheet. Many of them felt that they were asked unfair questions. Many of them felt that they were what they went through the work of doing wasn't even part of the questioning, right? To show that they have ties to Sierra Leone, to show that they might have a business or whatever. There was no questions about that. Most of the time it was just like, sorry, you failed. Here's a letter, the generic letter that says you are not able to go. Thanks, but no thanks. Goodbye. And that is what most people have told me. That's what their experience has been like. Lanadi says, CARICOM needs to be more involved in opening travel out of the region without having a U.S. visa. I guess that's like the Caribbean communications with the United States. I would imagine so. Okay, Or is that a country he's talking about? Because it might just be a country and spelled incorrectly. So yeah, you tell me what you're talking about. I just want to make sure I frame that response properly. Okay, so that's part of what was difficulty in getting to Sierra Leone, or getting to the United States, or getting a visa in the United States from a Sierra Leonean. This is anecdotal, right? I've never gone through the process. I've just spoken to people who've gone through the process, and people always ask me, "Can you help? Do you know the process?" And I'm like, unfortunately or fortunately, I was born in the United States, and I haven't been heavily involved in inviting someone over to get a visa. So all of that was a new process for me as I talked to people while they were going through the process. I know someone who paid a lawyer $2,000. $2,000 they paid a lawyer in the United States to help them through the process. And when they got to the window, the person at the window was asking them questions about the lawyer. Like, why would you use this lawyer? Who's this lawyer to you? And basically was just like, yeah, nope. Passed him the paperwork and said, move on with your day. Judah Faith says, what do you think about the example he is trying to make out the green card situation on Mahmoud Khalil? So yeah, I mean, here's the thing about Trump and green cards. If you guys might remember, really quickly, I want to go through this story because this is a good question and I think it's important. There was a gentleman named Jamal Khashoggi who was a green card holder and a former national of Saudi Arabia. And he worked for the Washington Post, and he used to do stories about Saudi Arabia and their human rights violations, et cetera, et cetera. He was in Turkey. No. Was he in Turkey? Where was he? Jamal Khashoggi. I want to make sure I get this right because this is an important thing, because I think it's really important to call this out because I think that you know, I don't know if everybody's aware of this or really remembers this. Yeah, he was in Istanbul, right? He was at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, and he was just trying to make sure he got some paperwork so he could come back to the States for work or bring his wife or something like that. He went in, never came back out. It was found out later that he was sawed up and dismembered and put into suitcases and flown on a private jet back to Saudi Arabia. Now, when asked about this, Trump was like, what do you feel about an American citizen being murdered? Oh, sorry. Being unalived by another country? And Trump's response was like, not American citizen, green card holder, or national, whatever it was, but he corrected him because he wants to be very clear this is not an American citizen. So he does see people as green card holders, obviously, as non-American citizens, and can go by the way of how immigration goes, or immigrants who are on, you know, either illegally or are here on temporary visas. I don't think he has a sympathetic view to those folks. And so the reasons for revoking a green card are pretty clear. And I don't think this gentleman that was basically not even protesting, but basically behind some of the protests at Columbia University falls under the criteria for being removed. So what do I think? I think this is crazy. And I think he's the first of many more to come. They use cruelty as a deterrent, right? When they put kids in cages and do family separation, it's used as a deterrent to stop people from wanting to come. Because they're not American citizens, they feel like it is okay. Putting people in Guantanamo Bay and things like that. The idea is to use it as a deterrent, and that's what they're doing. There are a lot of questions and comments coming in, so I do want to answer these before I jump into the Sierra Leone feedback that's going on. Tiggy is here saying, I was waiting for you to go live to discuss this topic. Well, here we are. We are talking about this. Frank Mag says, can this affect family-based programs? I think if you mean like what they're calling chain migration, they're already trying to restrict that and make adjustments to that. So yes, I would imagine so. Andrew Craig Jr. says, how does this rule affect those who want citizenship in Sierra Leone via African ancestry? Just curious. It has no impact whatsoever. That's the opposite way around. This does not impact that whatsoever. Slash and Burn Fitness says, oh, I remember he was cut up live. Yes, alive. Yes. We're talking about Jamal Khashoggi in Istanbul, Turkey, in the Saudi Arabia consulate. Also, MBS said to Trump that he didn't do it, and Trump said publicly that he believed MBS, although all records indicate that it was likely Saudi Arabia who did this. And I will mention that Trump refused to listen to the audio because he said he didn't want to hear it, of course, and that probably may have made him have to have a feeling about it. So he didn't listen to the audio. And then what I also do remember is at that time, not only did all those things happen that I just mentioned, but the reason why they even got the audio was because the Turkish did something that technically is against international standards, but we wouldn't have had it otherwise. They were spying on the embassy. It's supposed to be sovereign soil. When you have an embassy or a consulate in someone else's country, that's supposed to be your country's claim inside that other country, right? So it's like the American, if you guys ever seen the Bad Boys movie, Bad Boys 3 or whatever, or maybe it was Bad Boys 2, when they're in Cuba and they just had to cross over into American territory in Cuba because they were on the American embassy territory. Same thing, with the American embassy in Sierra Leone. You are on sovereign American territory once you get to the embassy, which is why they always say when you go to another country, you should register that you're there with the U.S. embassy. Embassy knows you're there. In case of emergency, you can show up and be like, hey, there's a civil war or something going on here. Let me in the embassy, figure out how to get me back to America, right? So in this case, in Turkey, they bugged the Saudi Arabian consulate in Turkey. And that's how they found out this happened, because they had it all in high definition audio. Let's see, what else? The yellow list is almost exclusively Western Africa. Let me see the yellow list. Well, yeah, Benin, Burkina Faso, Cape Verde. Is Chad in West Africa still? Chad is still part of West Africa, right? Gambia, Liberia, Mali. Yeah. Well, there are a lot of West African countries for sure, but there are also Equatorial Guinea's in there. Mauritania is in there. I don't know if Mauritania is considered West Africa. Is it? Yeah, I think so too. Sorry. Yeah. Cameroon, I think, is considered Central. Republic of Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, both Central Africa. Angola. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. A lot of West African countries. Yeah, you're right. All right, so let's get back to the topic at hand. So there was a lot of discussion about this, and I think it's going to be really important to go through it because there were some upset folks. That's for sure. And so let me get to how some people were responding to the travel ban list. And of course, these are people who tend to oppose the government of Sierra Leone. But okay. So here's what some people wrote. A person by the name of Ismail Ba said, for 7 years, the president and his quote unquote, this is a quote. I'm reading a quote. For 7 years, I'll just say the president and his quote unquote incompetent government have boasted about spending millions to improve Sierra Leone's international reputation. Yet, the country now faces a major international cocaine scandal and a proposed U.S. travel ban, both stemming from weak or corrupt governance in Sierra Leone. It's time for a results and performance audit of the president's numerous foreign trips. What tangible benefits have they brought to Sierra Leone? Now, again, that is a quote. That is not my writing. I'm reading a quote. Someone else said, our government spent 7 straight years bragging about actively cleaning our nations abroad, only to land into international cocaine scandals of embarrassing proportions and a proposed U.S. travel ban, mainly because of the weak, corrupt governance. Maybe it's time to result to performance. Wow. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like everybody is copying what somebody else wrote, throwing it in a chat GPT and trying to get another way to write it. This is the exact same thing the other person said. Maybe it's time for, I have no doubt that the results reveal shocking dimensions of waste and absolute lack of value for taxpayers' money. So this is how Sierra Leoneans have been responding. It's interesting. They're responding by being upset at the president of Sierra Leone and not responding by the proposed travel ban coming from the United States. It's always interesting to see where people place their blame in things like this. So question from Yema Emily says, what impact do you think this will have on Sierra Leone people? Do you think that America lacks respect for Sierra Leone? 2 questions, 2 answers. So what impact do I think this will have on Sierra Leonean people? It will just continue to make it difficult to get visas to go to the United States. And it will mean that people will likely find other countries to go to. I have a friend who's moving to Kenya, likely. Other people who I've talked to that are planning to move to Kenya. And so, you know, I mean, there are other countries on the continent that people are thinking about moving to, or at least visiting more often when they want to leave Sierra Leone. You know, many of the visas that are made available are already hard to get. So it just means it's going to be harder, which means there are probably going to be more ways that people try to skirt the system, or more countries that people are going to go to. So that's 1. 2, the other question was, do you think America lacks respect for Sierra Leone? In general, yes. Government, yes. I think in general, the United States, just in general, lacks respect for most other countries, right? Most Americans see American exceptionalism as a good thing and see themselves as better than other places, right? Generally, America is seen that way by the countries in which people of those countries in which want to come to the United States. And so many Americans look down upon the country of Sierra Leone. In fact, many Sierra Leonean Americans, in fact, can have negative things to say about Sierra Leone when talking about Sierra Leone. I've talked to people who are never planning to go back to Sierra Leone ever in life. They left, never plan to go back. I mean, I know people who've been gone 40 plus years, never plan to go back. They've only gone back for like a parent's funeral or something. In fact, I had a very specific discussion with somebody about 5-6 months ago, where they were born, lived in Sierra Leone until their early 20s, moved to the United States, and they say they will never, ever go back to Sierra Leone ever again. So that is a thing. That is a thing. I do think that there are very many people who lack respect for our country, and lack respect for many countries outside the continent of North America. In fact, they lack respect for Canada or Mexico. So what makes us think that they would have any respect for Sierra Leone or any countries on the continent of Africa? So yeah, in general, the American public and in general, the American political class, yes, for sure. No respect for Sierra Leone. Yeah. Kaba Tronca says, people who've gone through the process say meeting the interviews in Freetown Embassy is like heavenly judgment day. It's like judgment day. Okay, well, I think in Judgment Day, right? As long as you repent and you accept, right? Or no? You tell me. You guys tell me. I don't know. All right. So let me see if there's any other thoughts from folks. I think that was like what the general sentiment I hear people say is they're like blaming the American government as opposed to being upset with, blaming the Sierra Leone government as opposed to being upset with the American government for imposing or for planning to impose these proposed visa restrictions. Again, these are proposed. It's not set in stone yet. Something Empire says, after taking their natural and human resources, yes, after taking all of West Africa's natural and human resources, now you're restricting them from coming to the country which you took our ancestors from. That is correct. Correct in that sentiment. I agree with that sentiment. All right, cool. So that's the story. That's what we wanted to go over today. I have a very busy evening ahead of me, so I am going to call it quits here unless there's any other things that people want to mention. I am planning to go live on the Authentic African, solely the Authentic African YouTube channel tomorrow across all platforms, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere. I am interviewing someone about Benin citizenship, a couple actually, about Benin citizenship. She is a Benin citizen, U.S. citizen, dual passport holder. She is what they call a dual SIM, like me, two SIM individual. And so she's going to tell her story and talk about the Benin citizenship process. We've been talking about citizenship over the last few weeks on the Pan-African Perspectives live stream, and we will do the same again tomorrow. If you guys know anybody who wanted to know more about the details of what is happening with this whole proposed visa restrictions that's been going around, send them this live stream. I think this will give them a lot of insight, help them understand it better, and they'll be able to be more educated at dinner parties, right? And wherever else you're talking to people about this stuff. So if without further ado, I'll see you guys tomorrow on the live stream about Benin citizenship. For those of you who are in the diaspora and worried about different or wondering about different African citizenships, tomorrow we are going to talk about Benin citizenship. All right. So with that, we'll have Admire coming back on here very soon. I know many of you guys, especially from the Instagram page, showed up thinking Admire is going to be here, and she will be here soon. She will start coming back onto the live streams very, very soon. She just recently moved, and she's going to tell us about the move and all of that stuff. But she'll be back soon, guys. So stay tuned. And with that, guys, thanks for watching. See you all on the next video.
Realities on my Substack shortly, so be sure to subscribe. We have some breaking news right now. Donald Trump's team is preparing yet another travel ban 2.0, essentially targeting 43 countries for restrictions for entry into the United States. We learned this from the New York Times overnight. The State Department has officially drawn up a list of 43 countries in which the Trump administration may restrict or completely end travel into the United States from. This is the list of countries. In red, all travel will be banned. In orange, visas will be sharply restricted. And in yellow, the country will have 60 days to address concerns. And interestingly, yellow includes countries like St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis. These are island nations where Americans vacation all the time. And most of these other countries are either from Southeast Asia or from Africa. There are technically no surprises really in the red area up here. Many of these countries are facing civil war, are led by a dictator, or facing internal conflicts of some kind. What do you think about this list?